How we doing, folks? Kyle here with Awesome-Preneurs with another episode of Find Your Awesome with Awesome-Preneurs. We have a special guest today, but before we get to our guest, I want to give a big shout out to the front end line workers out there, the doctors, the nurses, all the food people that are working in the restaurants right now. I can tell you right now, you're saving me from a big hassle. I don't cook. I'm a single guy, and I'm not one to cook. So I want to thank everybody for doing that for us. So I'm going to bring in Bob here, and we're going to welcome Mr. Bob Kittell all the way from Utah. How are you doing, Bob?
Well, hi, Kyle.
How are you, my friend?
Oh, just having a blast. It's a brand new world. One thing that you can always expect is change.
Absolutely. It's yeah, it's hard out there, isn't it, right now? It really is. Oh, are you there? There we go. It's a scary time right now, as you mentioned. And I just want to make sure we talk about
You
how
keep
you
cutting
would.
out there, Kyle. But yeah,
Oh,
it is a challenge. I had speaking gigs all to the end of the year, and suddenly there's nowhere to go speak.
nowhere at all, eh? That's scary. I want to make sure here. Hold on a sec, Bob. I don't think your video is going here. Yeah, I'm trying to play with this technology and it's not easy. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to tell everybody how you and I met. I think it's extremely important to make sure everybody knows that. It's meant a lot to me right from the time we met. It was an incredible way to meet. We were at an event. There was about 9,000 people there. And I was with a friend of mine. I didn't even want to be at the event.
Well, it says
to
I'm
begin
currently
with.
live, so in case anybody can hear anything.
Oh, you can't.
Sure has been interesting.
Can you hear me now, Bob?
Yeah, you keep cutting out. So it says I'm live and it says you're live, but you're not there. So I don't really know what's going on. And there you go again. You're back. Hope this is entertaining for those of you that are watching. Once again, there's nothing you can expect better than change. And Kyle's gone again.
There we go. There we go. I figured it out. Can you see me now?
I can.
This is so fun. So this is another thing I challenge myself to do while we're stuck in our homes is learn this technology stuff. And it's not easy to do. Let me tell you that. It's been fun having to do that. So I apologize to everybody. We've got stuff figured out now. I want to go back to how I met Bob. So Bob Kittell, as we know, is an international speaker. He speaks all over the world. And I went to an event with a friend of mine, which I didn't even want to be there. I wasn't used to going to these events with these live speakers. I had never been before. There was about 9,000 people there, 8 speakers during the day. And I remember 2 of them. I remember Bob Kittell and Tony Robbins. Bob Kittell opened the show, and Tony Robbins was the last speaker. And when I saw Bob speak, I said to my friend next to me, I said, listen, that guy's amazing. I want to have him at one of my Awesome-Preneurs events. I'm going to go. I'm going to go talk to him. And my friend looked at me like I had coronavirus. He said, are you absolutely crazy? Who do you think you are? And why is he going to spend any time with you? And I did. I got up. I went and shook your hand. We introduced each other. I took your business card. And 3 months later, you were standing on my stage at Awesome-Preneurs. And I just want to say to everybody watching, I couldn't be more thankful for this relationship right now with Bob. It's taught me a ton. It's kept me moving forward with Awesome-Preneurs in a special way. I never thought anything this special would happen out of Awesome-Preneurs, and Bob's been a big part of making that happen. So I want to say thanks to Bob for that. And do you do that all the time, Bob, at events? Do you get to meet people worldwide where stuff like that happens?
Yeah, I remember one time saying, somebody said, I don't take time for small people anymore. And the reply was, wow, even God hasn't gotten to that point yet.
That's so amazing. And you were so open-minded and your heart was wide open, and you seemed like once I introduced myself, you really wanted to be part of that event. Just to travel around the world and help as many people as you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Bob, where you've traveled and who you've worked with throughout your career?
Well, I've been to over 300 cities all over the world, nationally and internationally, all 50 states in the United States, most of the provinces up in Canada. Been down to Mexico, Australia. Uh, my mother always wondered, when are you going to get a real job? And I go, I don't know, Ma. This is still working. Of course, now at this point, I'm wondering if I'm going to have to get a real job. There's just not many people getting together to go speak to anymore.
You know what? It is a scary time, Bob. And I think we've all had to find new ways to try and um, waste our time, I guess. Like, because I've had to find new ways and I've gone to technology, trying to learn it, trying to figure out how we're going to generate some funds for the business. A lot of us self employed people are in such a situation. We've never been in this situation before. How are you dealing with that situation right now?
Well, I was very fortunate. I had a mother who, when I left to go to college, says, never go into debt. So, well, everybody else was driving cars. I was driving a bicycle. While everybody was putting stereos on their credit cards, I never had a credit card. I have an American Express card, but I pay it off every month, and I've done that my entire life. So, in my career, I owned this little stupid, ugly green car while all my friends were driving beautiful cars, and I'm speaking. And then I lived in a little 970 square foot townhome while my friends were building these big houses. And in our lifetime, we have these downturns, these times where, the poop hits the fan, so to speak. And because my mother taught me to save for the rainy day, I'm actually in a financial place. I'm fine. I can weather this storm. I know a lot of others cannot, and my heart goes out to them. And as we go through this, maybe that would be a great lesson for the next time. Because I had a storm twice in my life where I didn't work for 4 and 5 years, but I was able to weather that storm.
That's amazing to hear, Bob. Now, with this, the situation that we're in right now, is there people bothering you to do online stuff that you're not necessarily used to doing? And are you open-minded to doing things like that? I mean, I know you said yes to me right away. You've never said no to anything that I've asked you to do, but is there other people reaching out for you to do events like this?
Well, that word bother, I can't be bothered. People can't bother me. I'll tell these kids that, I'll be speaking to 500 kids and I say, if you have any questions, give me a call. You can't bother me. And a year later, I'll say, well, why didn't you call? I didn't want to bother you. And I wonder if they're worried about people bothering them. So I'm in a position, it's like, if you have my website and you have a question, I'm always open to answering those questions. I went to speak at an event up in Canada with Tony Robbins, and these two guys sent me an email. Hey, can we take you out to lunch the day before? We'd like to just kind of pick your brain. I went, sure. They said, we sent an email to everyone at that event. You were the only one who even replied. But once again, it goes back to, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for those that helped me. When I was kicking in college, I didn't have a very good first year. And I ran into the all-pro kicker for the Buffalo Bills. And he picked me up and took me to Buffalo Bills Stadium every day for a week and straightened my kicking out. And I said, why did you do that? He says, pal, we're all in this together. I could not have gotten where I am today if it wasn't for the kindness of others.
That's so incredible to hear, Bob. And you know what? That's one thing I've admired about you from the very start. And it was actually shocking because there would be people that would say, "Hey, I want to reach out to Bob. Can I have his phone number?" And I was very protective of it at first. And when I mentioned that to you, you were like, "Don't ever not give somebody my phone number." And I know you've changed lots of lives just from the people around me. You've made a world of difference for them, and they all appreciate it. Now, why don't you talk about some of the other people that you've worked with throughout your career, like Zig Ziglar and the presidents and stuff like that, that you've coached in the past? I think a lot of people would be interested in some of those too.
I don't know how much they coached me. They became my mentors. I told Zig Ziglar 10 years after I read his book, I said, I am a speaker because I read your book. And see, that's part of mentoring. What is a book? It's everything, all the greatest knowledge that you learned, and you put it into a book. How valuable could that be? And yet for, 15 to 20 bucks, people don't buy them. But then I remember one time I got to a place with my mentor. I've had a mentor since I was 28 years old, and we met each other every single month all the way till he's 80 years old now. And he tells me now at this point that he learns from me as much as I learn from him.
That's incredible. I love hearing that kind of stuff. Now let's go to talk about your book for a second. I've got your book with me right here. What prompted you to write this book, and how did it come to your head? And what made you finally do that? I know there's a bit of a story behind that you've been bugged to write a book for a long time, and it took you a while to get it out there. Why don't you talk a little bit about your book?
This publisher calls me out of nowhere. You see, back in 2011, I was having massive panic attacks and massive anxiety. And when that happens, the blood leaves your frontal lobe and you feel like you're in a fog. And I just had this policy: if somebody asked me to do something, I do it. So he calls me up, and I don't even know who he is. Hey, could you come down and speak to my guys in Pensacola? Sure. So I show up, I speak. He goes, pal, I'm a small time publisher, medium publisher firm. I only take 2 books a month out of the hundreds that people ask me to take. Do you have a book in you? And I go, I don't write books. And he hounded me and hounded me. And finally, one morning, I just woke up and I went, okay, if I was going to write a book, this is what it would be about. It'd be a memoir about how I struggled. I went to the top of the speaking world, sunk into the bottom of depression and anxiety, and how I climbed out of that hole. And I'll put some of my memory stuff in it. He sends me a contract, and I thought it was one of these guys that charges you 40 grand to write a book.
Yeah.
I found out that that wasn't the case. I sent his contract to a couple of my friends who have New York Times bestsellers, and they said, you'd be an idiot not to take him up on this. And so over 2 years, they did all the editing, they did all of the artwork, and one day I find that I've got a book.
That's amazing. It's such an incredible book to read too, folks. If anybody wants to get their hands on that book, I have a box left here at home. You can reach out to me on the Awesome-Preneurs email, hello@awesomepreneurs.com. You can call me, message me on Messenger, wherever. How can people find the book online, Bob? Is there a place for them to go purchase the book online?
Well, it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble. If you go to expertbob.com, it's right there on the website. Also on my website, I have my TED Talk, how I went from panic to peace, how connection quiets the mind.
That's an incredible talk. I'll never forget it. I've watched it a few times now, and it's got a special place in my heart. And I know it's going to have an effect on people out there. What I've done at the bottom of the screen is I've put a ticker, and you can connect with Bob at www.expertbob.com. If you want to reach out to him at any time, folks, you can hear how open-minded and how open-hearted he is. And he is willing to talk to new people all the time. Now, for your book that you wrote, how long did that process take you to write a book? I know a lot of people right now that are interested in writing a book, but they just don't have the energy, or they think they don't have the time. How long did it take you?
It took me about 2 years. Came up with, my publisher put me under no pressure whatsoever. And I just go, oh, and I'd start writing. I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and just write, then send him in what I came up with.
Bless you.
Notice how I covered so there's no, okay, go on.
That was very good. So 2 years, eh? That's a long time. Now, do you find it was worth it? Was it instrumental, and did it help you kind of work through some of the stuff you were going through as you were writing the book that you were writing?
Actually, as I started the book, it was going to be more about memory, because I've trained tens of thousands of college students how to have a better memory. And as the book progressed, I was going through my development of my mental health. And so I just started adding those stories in. So it became almost a living memoir up to some point.
That's amazing. And you heard me say it, folks. I've got a whole box of books here, so please reach out to me. Now, there's a comment section too on this platform that we're using. If anybody has any questions now or later that you'd like Bob to answer, make sure you message us, because what's going to happen is on the 27th of this month, we're going to do an online Awesome-Preneurs, and Bob's going to be our presenter for that event. He's agreed to do that for us. We're going to keep it to about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, to keep everybody's attention. If you've never had a chance to see Bob Kittell on stage, please, folks, come join us for that show. Let's tell everybody. So you're in Utah. That's your home state? That's where you live now, is Utah?
Yeah, that's right. I grew up in Cheektowaga, New York. It means land of the crabapple trees. Kind of gives some insight into my personality. But I went out to Utah to go to school, and I went, "Ooh, this is nicer than Buffalo, New York." Since then, I've learned most places are nicer than Buffalo, New York. Now, I mean it climatically, because the people in Buffalo are really, really awesome.
Right. So, and you do enjoy Utah and you've got lots of friends and family there. Now, you spend a lot of time at the university there training people, don't you? Training the students and the staff.
Yeah, at the University of at BYU, I've been a volunteer teaching all the athletes memory and mindfulness, how to quit worrying. And right now in the world and what's going on, learning how to stop worrying and how to be mindful is a really, really important skill.
I agree, Bob. I couldn't agree more. Now, what advice would you have for people right now going through this situation? You know, they're all in panic mode. We all seem to be dealing with it a little bit differently. What about somebody going through a panic phase right now? What would you suggest to them and how would you help them?
With panic, first of all, if there's somebody who can help you, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, somebody who does EMDR, let a professional help you if you're going through it. However, with panic, after every storm, there's always a calm. If you're feeling panic, the chemicals have already been released in your body for fight or flight. If you could just sit there and go, this is like food poisoning. It will go by. I can't get past this. That is helpful. There's an article I read on how to replace repressed anger. A lot of times during a crisis, our childhood yuck comes up. And so if we're feeling a lot of panic or anxiety, typically we need to cry, or if we need to feel anger, not to suppress it, but find somebody you're safe with and to feel that anger. Now, if you get past all of that, there's some really cool things to do. This little girl told, she was being interviewed. She's like 8 years old. So what do you do first thing in the morning? She goes, I dance with my mommy to my favorite music to wake me up. And, there's things like that to
That's
radiate happiness, to get connected. I mean, it's hard to be connected right now, but to get connected even on the phone. I've been talking to my friends from New York that I played football with, that I went to college with, and we laugh and we giggle and we reminisce. This is a great time to get connected. Try not to just be alone. Connection is one of the things that we are built for.
That's great advice, Bob. Now, one thing I want to touch on too, we're in a funny time because we're all counting on technology so greatly. I'll never forget, I had a conversation with a friend a few days ago, and I said to my friend, could you imagine if this happened in the 80s, where we didn't have all this technology and we didn't have all this connection where we can connect through the computer and through everywhere else? Now, let me ask you this, Bob. You're a technology expert for kids as well, and the addiction that the kids are having now with technology. Can you touch a little bit on that and what the technology does to the kids' brains and how we're going to get through that after this?
So it's really funny. I've been talking about getting off your technology, and the World Health Organization just said they want kids to play video games so it'll keep them in the house. Well, understand that looking at these screens, the blue light shrinks our frontal lobe and it damages our brain and changes the chemistry in our brain. So, since you and your children will be watching them, I'm wearing blue light filter glasses. Got to look that up. Blue light filter glasses, because that will protect the kids' brains the best we can at a time like this. I mean, I'm looking at screens, but I got these glasses on, so it's not going to damage my brain. And especially in the child brain, it literally changes the brain chemistry. And that's why this generation is different than the one before.
Wow. We're in such a scary, neat time right now. There's so many different things going on. And all the kids right now are doing schooling online. So where would somebody find blue light glasses? Could they find them on Amazon or something like that?
Yeah, you want 100% blue light filter glasses. The United States Air Force was using them after I got through speaking to them. Intel corporations took out all their screens in their company in Arizona and put in blue filter screens. That's how important it is. In fact, they would have a part of the screen watching the operator's eyes. And if you're looking at that screen too long, the whole computer would shut down and make you look outside. So if you're going to be on screens, like every 20, 30 minutes, take a break, walk outside, look around so that there's a balance there, because that's about the best we can do right now.
It really is. That's what I find too. You know, I spend a lot of my day looking at the computer now and I get out to walk the dog. and clear my head, and it clears my eyes up. I make sure an hour before bed I'm not looking at my screens. Is that something you would suggest for people as well, is to shut down all their technology before bedtime?
Well, especially if you're not wearing blue light filter glasses, because it screws up your sleep cycle. And I bet you there's a lot of people right now having trouble sleeping. Try putting the blue light filter glasses on or reading a book 30 to 40 minutes before you go to bed. But yeah, the exercise every morning. Every morning I get on my bike and go out for a bike ride, or I ride my exercise cycle inside. That's first thing on my routine: exercise, eating good. If we're filling ourselves with caffeine and sugar, we're just setting ourselves up to feel even more wound up inside. Um, yeah, just some common sense things like that too would be helpful.
Absolutely. And what are you doing to fill your day? It was funny. I got to tell everybody when we came online, you pulled up your kite string and showed me what a
Yeah,
mess it was in.
this is like 4 lines of 50 yards each. I got this awesome kite, and we're always going, I don't have time. I'm sitting there going, I have time to unravel this now. What the heck?
That's amazing. Now, somebody like you being as smart as you are, and you're traveling the world helping people get through situations like this. Is there anything that you're doing or something new that you're learning right now?
Something new that I'm learning. Well, something new that I'm learning is uh, for 5 years, all of my panic and anxiety, well, all my anxiety has completely disappeared. In the last 2 weeks, some of more of it started bubbling up. And it was very, very anxious. And I know what anxiety feels like. And I know how to lean into it and how to face it. And after a couple of weeks, I just said to my doctor, I need a break. And he goes, you do need a break. And so for about 10 days, I'm going to take a break. And uh, what that is more childhood repressed stuff coming up. And instead of being upset about it, I'm going, all right, I'm finding a new layer that'll make me calmer and better. And that's how we grow up.
Good for you, Bob. I'm so happy to hear that. Now, I've seen Cheryl Barber Parker has joined us. I believe she's out in California. She's been a special part of our group for a long time now. She's involved with Kevin Balmer and Mo Mondays. She wanted me to make sure I say hello to you, Bob.
Hi,
Uh,
Cheryl. I always notice she gives me some of the best feedback, and she's always right there being supportive.
She's
It's
an
awesome.
incredible follower. Yeah, we love her. So now, Bob, what have you got planned for the future? You said a lot of your events have been canceled. Now, are they going to reschedule all those events, or do you even know what the future holds for you right now?
I was just talking to a very knowledgeable doctor, and he goes, you know what? Nobody knows what's next. So it's going, today is today, living in the moment. You can't possibly take on the whole future. I had so many different futures planned in my life, and then life takes over, and what really happens, happens. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that, we figure it out. I mean, after every storm, I mean, we've got a World War I, we've got a World War II, we've got the Dust Bowl, we've got the Spanish flu, we've got Y2K, we've got the world, and the media wants to make a big deal out of everything. You know what? Love each other, be there for each other. It gives us these times to come together. It always gets better again.
That's great advice, Bob. That's the next thing I was going to ask you. Are you staying away from the news and all the media mess that's out there?
Yeah, one of the things in the book, If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Happy? This is a gentleman from the University of Texas, and I heard him speak at an association, and he said, "Look, if you're dealing with anxiety and stress, why watch the news? The news is negative. It's like hanging around a bunch of sad sacks, a bunch of people that whine, that they bring you down. In times like this, we need the people that lift us, and we need to be the lifters too, not to buy into it. But we love, it was really interesting. I had 200 people evaluate me on my speaking, and most of them were eights, nines, and tens. And this one guy goes, two. He was the worst speaker and most unauthentic person I have ever heard from. His stories are ridiculous, even if they're true. And you want to know what's interesting? I forgot all about the 199, and I got drawn to that one. So, knowing what I know, yeah, stay away from the news. I mean, if something really serious is going to happen, I mean, everybody's going to know it anyway, or maybe peek at it for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning or in the middle of the day, and then put it on the shelf and don't look at it anymore.
You're
Especially if you're dealing with yuck inside.
Yeah, you're so right, Bob. I just want to hit back on that point where you mentioned it's funny how 200 people, 199 can say really super nice things about you. And that one always sticks out. And I've been that way all my life as well. And we tend to beat ourselves up. I think it's time that we start concentrating on the good as opposed to the bad. And we all stick together at a time like this. Now, what's your plan for the rest of the week? Have you got anything planned for Easter, or are you going to see your family through the windows, or what are you going to do for that?
All my kids are quarantined. They're want to making sure I'm quarantined. We stay in touch with each other. They're all pretty lovely. In fact, my son sprays with Lysol the mail that comes in. When he picks up stuff from Walmart, he sprays it all, leaves it out in the sun. I mean, they're being very, very diligent. Maybe over diligent, I don't know, but one of the things that I've taught my kids, and I think it's a great thing, wake up every morning and go, whose life can I live today, and go look for that person. Because random acts of kindness are one of the greatest things we can do for our psychological selves. And before you go to bed each night, go, what was the greatest thing that happened to me today?
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, write down one thing you're grateful for, or one person, and 5 reasons why.
That's incredible advice, Bob. Listen, I'm going to let you get back to your day because I know you've got a kite to unwind there. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that you've agreed to be our speaker and our presenter on April 27th. We're going to have an Awesome-Preneurs virtual again, where you're going to be the speaker. The show is going to be all about Bob Kittell. He's got some amazing, incredible stories to share, folks. And I promise you, if you go to his website, it's on the ticker down below there, and you watch his TED Talk, you'll never forget it. There's some great advice there. I want everybody to stay safe and happy. Make sure you're reaching out to your friends if you need some help. And thanks again, Bob, for being you.
And Kyle, thanks. And, maybe have questions ready. Have people send in questions if they have about anything that's going on. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't know the answer, I'm really good at saying, I don't know.
Well, there's not too many questions that you can't answer, Bob. I know that. And that's a brilliant idea. So I think we'll do that. We're going to have people submit some questions. We'll have those ready to go for the event. And I'm pretty excited. And I think everybody else is pretty excited to see you again as well. And I want to thank you again, Bob, and we'll see you on the 27th.
Okay, see you then. Bye,
Take care,
everyone.
Bob.